In the beginning, there was only the vastness of the sky above and the silent, endless waters below, stretching in every direction without end, without shore, without motion, as if the very breath of existence had not yet been drawn, and no voice had yet spoken the word of life. For there were no people to walk the land, no animals to roam, no birds to spread their wings in flight, no fish to ripple the depths, and no trees to reach upward toward the promise of light. For there was no land, no mountain, no valley, no forest, nothing to cast a shadow and nothing to receive it, only the still expanse where sky and water met in eternal quiet, and the face of the earth had not yet taken form, hidden somewhere beyond the veil of time, waiting, patient and unshaped, resting beneath the gaze of the heavens, while deep below, the dark waters murmured softly to themselves like the memory of a dream that had not yet been dreamed, and in those depths something shimmered, faint at first, like a spark behind a curtain, a presence of immeasurable wisdom and unfathomable power, the essence of creation itself, clothed not in flesh but in radiance, adorned in brilliant feathers of quetzal green and blue like polished jade, and there, in the place where no sun had yet risen, stood the sovereign plumed serpent, the bearers, the begetters, the great thinkers and the great knowers, the only ones who existed in the endless void, keepers of the first thought and the first vision, and above them, the sky stretched wide and unknowable, holding in its unseen heights a force that stirred with purpose, the heart of sky, the mighty God of the heavens, whose voice had not yet broken the silence but whose will was already shaping the course of what would be. And in that moment before the dawn of all things, a voice finally arose, a voice that was not heard with ears but felt with the very soul, the voice of the heart of sky descending into the deep abyss to meet the sovereign plumed serpent, and together they spoke, not in haste but with the measured care of those who know the weight of eternity, pondering, questioning, shaping their thoughts like threads in a vast and perfect tapestry, their words winding together as they sought clarity in the infinite darkness, searching for the way to summon life from the void, until at last the vision became clear to them both, and they resolved to shape the world, to raise the land from beneath the waters, to spread the sky above it, to plant the trees and fill the rivers, and in the fullness of time, to bring forth humankind who would give voice to creation, for without one to praise, to remember, to keep the days, the world would remain unfinished, and so the heart of sky revealed its threefold aspect: Thunderbolt Hurricane, who came first, fierce and unyielding; Newborn Thunderbolt, who followed, fresh with the strength of beginning; and Sudden Thunderbolt, who came last, swift and decisive, completing the circle of power. And these three, as one, came to stand beside the sovereign plumed serpent in the great work, asking, "How shall the world begin? How will the land rise? Who will provide? Who will nurture? Who will tend what we have made?" And in their unity they agreed that the waters must first be drawn back, emptied away to reveal the earth beneath, that the land must be shaped and the sky raised above it, and that all must be ordered in harmony, for the work would not be done until all creation stood ready to receive its caretakers. And so they spoke the first word, a word of power and command, earth, and by that utterance alone, the land began to rise from the depths like a dream rising from sleep, mist curling away from it as the mountains pushed upward, lifting their crowns toward the place where the light would one day dwell, valleys sinking deep between them, rivers beginning their winding courses, and the waters retreating into the great seas, each set apart in its place, while the heart of sky and the sovereign plumed serpent shaped the plains and covered them with groves of cypress and pine. And they saw that it was good, and they named the sky high above and the earth below as the foundations of all that would come. And next they turned their thoughts to the beasts of the wild, for the forests needed guardians and the mountains needed watchers, and so they made the deer to walk softly in the glades, the birds to sing in the branches, the pumas and jaguars to rule the shadowed places, the serpents to glide through the undergrowth, the rattlesnakes to warn with their tails, and the deadly fer-de-lances to keep the deep places of the earth. Yet when all was finished, the bearers and begetters listened and found the world still too quiet, for though the leaves rustled and the rivers whispered, there was no voice to speak praise, no tongue to remember the names of the makers, no heart to keep the truth of the beginning, and they knew something was missing. Then, in the council of the first creators, a great thought arose, that they should make those who could keep the days and honor the work, and so they sought to shape the first people, that they might walk the earth and speak to the heavens, and they fashioned them first from the mud of the riverbank, forming their bodies with care, but the mud was soft, it crumbled at the touch, It melted in the rain and fell apart, for there was no strength in it, no power to stand, and so the makers let them dissolve and began anew. And the second people they formed from wood, carving their shapes from the trunks and branches, and these could stand, and they multiplied, but they had no hearts, no minds, no memory of the divine, and though they walked and spoke, their words were empty, and they forgot the names of the ones who made them, and they gave no thanks, and so the makers destroyed them, letting the jaguars eat their flesh, the birds pluck their eyes, and the rivers carry away their remains, and the few that escaped became the monkeys of the forest, living in the trees as a reminder of what had been. And still the creators sought the true form of humankind, and at last they turned to the maize, the sacred corn that would be the flesh and blood of the people, and from its kernels they ground the meal, mixed with water to make the dough, and from this they shaped the first true men, giving them strength, giving them minds, giving them hearts that could love and remember, eyes that could see the world in its fullness, ears that could hear the voice of the makers in the wind and the rain, and tongues that could speak praise, and they were 4 in number, the first fathers of all humanity, and when they awoke they looked around in wonder, for the world was new and every leaf was bright with the light of its first morning, and the mountains shone with the dew, and the rivers laughed in their courses, and the sky stretched vast and pure above, and they lifted their eyes and their voices to give thanks to the heart of sky and the sovereign plumed serpent, and the makers were pleased, but they saw that these first men could see far, too far, even to the edges of the earth, and they feared that such knowledge was not for mortal kind, and so they breathed a mist into their eyes, dimming their vision so they could see only what was near, that they might live humbly and walk in faith, and then the makers gave them wives so that the earth might be filled, and from these came the generations, spreading over the land, tending the fields, hunting the forests, raising their children beneath the watch of the mountains, and keeping the days with their prayers, and so the work of creation was fulfilled, the sky set above, the earth firm below, the rivers flowing, the seas in their bounds, the mountains guarding the horizons, the forests whispering with life, the animals in their places, and humankind walking between earth and sky, the keepers of the memory, the ones who would tell the story of how it all began, and in every telling, the names of the makers would be spoken, and their glory remembered, and though ages would pass, and kingdoms rise and fall, the truth would remain that in the first dawn of the world there was only the still sky and the silent waters, and from the union of wisdom and will, of the heart of sky and the sovereign plumed serpent, all that is was called into being, and the earth itself became a living testimony that the word, once spoken, cannot be undone, for creation is the breath of the divine made visible, and every mountain, every wave, every living thing carries within it the echo of that first voice, still speaking through the ages to those who will listen.